Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Miller, hopping on live today to talk about goal motivation in the workplace and in your personal life. And not just what we need within ourselves to feel motivated, but also what we need from our external environment to help us feel motivated in working toward our goals. And so this includes the people that you surround yourself with. And there's a lot of research in organizational psychology on goal motivation or motivation theories. And I'm going to talk about a few of them today, but also note that there's a common theme across, well, I can't say all of them because I haven't yet researched all of them, but all of the ones that I have researched, there's a common theme when it comes to theories on motivation, and that is self-efficacy, the need to believe in your ability to achieve a task, achieve a goal. So self-efficacy is a bit different than self-confidence. Self-confidence is more just general, but self-efficacy is specifically confidence in your ability to achieve a task or a goal. And these theories discuss how this is needed. Self-efficacy is needed in order to feel motivated. So there's a lot of research in the field, but also you probably have a lot of your own experiences where you can draw from to prove to yourself that in order to be motivated to work toward a goal, well, you have to believe that you can achieve. And it also sounds a bit like common sense, but I think it's important to bring some awareness specifically to not only what we need to feel motivated within ourselves, which I will share a little bit of that, but also I think it's key to be very discerning about your environment, who you choose to get, who and where you choose to focus your time and energy. So we don't always have control, of course, over our external factors, but one really big, powerful, key thing that you do have control over is yourself and the ability to choose your focus. So we're going to talk about that. But first we're going to talk about some of the theories, and then I'll share some examples of what can happen when our self-efficacy, our belief in our ability to achieve a goal is lowered and we start to feel less motivated. And then I'll close out with some takeaways, what you can do to build your own self-efficacy, to continue increasing it and expanding it if it's already high, which is a good thing, but also what you can do to further build your network where you feel supported by people who believe in your ability. Maybe the belief that you have in yourself is then going to be reflected back at you, and that's going to feel really good. All right, so let's go ahead and first talk about some of the different theories. And we'll start with my favorite, which is expectancy theory. And expectancy theory is a motivational theory that sounds pretty much exactly, that is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You expect that if you put in effort, it is going to pay off. And this is something that we need in order to feel motivated. If we think about it, if we don't feel like we are going to achieve, how likely are we to try? Or let's say you are thinking about taking on a project, maybe it'll give you a promotional opportunity potential in your role, but in order to complete this project, you need certain resources. And let's say you don't know if these resources exist within your organization, or you don't know where to find them, or maybe you know that they don't exist. Well, then you're less likely to believe that you can achieve, and so you're going to naturally not feel motivated to take on that task and work toward that goal. So this is expectancy theory. And in addition to this self-efficacy belief that you can achieve, the expectancy theory also talks about instrumentality, which is a reward. So there's a reward there. And then balance, which is value, the value that you assign to that reward. What does it mean to you? So according to expectancy theory, these are factors that we all need in order to feel motivated. And another that I want to mention is a self-determination theory, which talks about 3 innate needs that need to be there in order to inspire motivation. And these are autonomy and competence, and then relatedness. So competence there again is the efficacy, the self-efficacy, the belief that we are competent, capable, that we are going to be able to reach our goal, to complete, to deliver on the task. And then autonomy makes a lot of sense. I'm someone that thrives on freedom and autonomy, but I think that this is a pretty common desire in the workplace. And actually, there's research in organizational behavior too that talks about for employee satisfaction, we need a sense of autonomy. Now, why is that? And this is starting to go in, lead into how important it is to surround yourself with people who believe in you if you want to feel motivated, especially in the workplace. So if somebody is giving you autonomy to complete a goal or a task, well, that means that they believe in you. They believe in your ability to achieve. If somebody is, if the hiring manager is investing time in you during the interview process, equipping you with how to best prepare for the next step and keeping their strong lines of communication, this is going to make you feel like you are invested in, like they believe in you. They believe in your ability to do the job. That one was a little bit different than autonomy, but anyhow, okay, so autonomy, but that goes back to competence. And let's see here. Oh, and then relatedness, which is similar to the other one that I just mentioned. I think the balance, the value. What is the achieving this goal? What is that reward going to mean to you? Is it related to what something that feels meaningful to you? And then the last theory that I'll talk about is social cognitive theory, and this talks about the environmental factors that we need, which includes social support. So, in order to feel motivated, we need to have support from those in our environment. Think about, maybe that you have a high level of self-confidence. You know that you can achieve what you set your mind to, but you're on a team or under leadership or within an organization where you're feeling like they're not feeling your value. This is ultimately, it's going to start to bring down your motivation. And we can start to, if we stay in these kinds of situations for too long, we can start to start to question ourselves and, wait a minute, do I have value to bring here? Can I accomplish this? So this is why it's so important. One of the reasons it's so important to choose wisely who you surround yourself with. So those are some of the theories. Now let's talk about some examples of what can happen when we keep ourselves stuck. Now I'm never suggesting that we leave a job where we don't feel that we don't feel it is aligned with us before having something else lined up. That can lead to a lot of other challenges. But I am suggesting that you pay attention to how you're feeling in certain situations and around certain people. And if you're not getting the support that you need to help you feel motivated, even if you're intrinsically motivated yourself just naturally, this is going to start to take a toll on you. So you want to pay attention. So let's look at some examples. A simple example would be during the recruiting process, where candidates will sometimes self-select out of the process before they get cut by the manager necessarily. So this happens, I've seen this happen when communication falls off and the candidate is not hearing from the hiring manager. Maybe they're not feeling invested in, maybe they're not getting important information on next steps and how to best prepare. If they feel like they're not getting that attention and communication, and they don't feel invested in during the hiring process or interview process rather, they are more likely to self-select out of the process because they're feeling like the hiring manager doesn't believe that they're the one for the role. Think about it. If you're going through an interview process and you're not hearing anything and that communication isn't there, you're probably going to start to feel like, well, I guess I'm not their person. So this is going to naturally lower motivation to continue working toward that task or goal, which is going through the interview process, trying to win the job, because you don't think that you are going to. So that's a simple example. And I mentioned before that I thrive on freedom and autonomy. Freedom is one of my drivers. I learned this about myself at a very young age. And in keeping this in mind throughout my career path, I have continued to move in a direction where I feel more free and have greater autonomy. And of course, now I work for myself, and I have for a long time now. But even though I work for myself as an external recruiter, we'll talk about the recruiting aspect of my business. My clients are the organizations and the hiring managers. And I have a lot of hiring managers that I work really well with because, well, lots of reasons, but one of the reasons is they believe in my ability to achieve. So I have autonomy. They're not micromanaging my process, asking me, I'm always following up, providing information on where I am and how things are going, and we keep that open line of communication. But this works really well for me. I feel confident in my ability to achieve. Now, I know that I can achieve, but it helps also in choosing to work with clients who also believe in my ability to achieve. So I have autonomy. And this is giving me confidence in my ability to deliver. Now, I've also worked with organizations in the past who have more of a micromanaging culture. And even though I'm not part of the organization, if I'm working with them, this feeling, this culture feel still trickles down and affects me. And now I did still deliver many times for that particular organization that I'm thinking of, but ultimately the relationship disintegrated, and I don't have a partnership with that organization anymore. I did start to feel less motivated because I was being micromanaged, and that didn't feel good. And what this can do, we're not always necessarily thinking through it this way, but it can make us feel, it can make people feel, if they're being micromanaged and they don't have autonomy, well, then we feel like, okay, this person doesn't believe that I can do the job on my own because they're having to micromanage my process rather than trusting me to just do the job. Well, this can just start to make you feel anxiety and anxious and start to question yourself. Wait a minute, can I do this job? Even myself, I've been highly self-motivated and with this very strong belief in myself and my ability to achieve since I was very little. This is one of the big reasons why I do what I do, because the belief I have in myself is the same belief that I have in others. So yeah, I have a strong belief in myself, but I'm still impacted and can start to feel anxious and uncomfortable and question, wait a minute, can I do this when I'm in an environment that I don't feel aligned with? And so for me, that's a micromanaging culture. And I hear this from a lot of other professionals that they don't like that either. And then, of course, there's also research in organizational psychology. And then there's lots of examples from past clients that I've worked with, from friends, from acquaintances, where they're not getting the support that they need from their external environment. And so, for example, one of my past clients was with an organization in a role, the same role for many years, and the dynamics of that organization and that role, she was supposed to get promoted in a shorter timeline, and she wasn't getting promoted. She kept going up for promotion, and she kept getting passed over, and it was really starting to wear on her self-efficacy, her belief in her abilities well, she did believe in herself. She knew that she was capable, but eventually you start to feel less motivated to continue pursuing promotion because you don't feel that you're being believed in. And she also wasn't getting feedback that was useful that she could then take and apply. And what happens when we stay in those situations for a long time is eventually our anxiety increases because we're getting further and further away from trusting our instincts. And so if you can't trust your intuition, which is your emotions showing up, your intuition show up as emotions to guide you in the direction that's right for you, we can just start to question ourselves and get further and further out of alignment. And then if we are staying stuck in a job within a company where we don't feel like we have that external support, we're not feeling valued, over time, this can really start to wear on us. And eventually we get to a point where we sort of hit rock bottom and enough is enough. I'm too uncomfortable that now I have to make a change. And by that point, it takes a lot more effort to rebuild your self-efficacy because it's beaten down. And then I also have clients that I've worked with, friends, acquaintances, just people in my network who, another example, the external support that they are lacking is from in their home environment. And so when we continue to put ourselves in these situations, now it's not always easy to just up and make a change, but what you can do, and we'll speak more about this in the takeaways part of the video in a bit, is acknowledge how you're feeling. You don't want to squash down the uncomfortable emotion. It's uncomfortable to feel, and so oftentimes we can tend to ignore it and try to keep moving forward in the workplace or trying to make a situation work and stay attached to a specific outcome that isn't working out, and it's for a very good reason. But then we start to get beat down, and not only do we lower our self-esteem, but our self-efficacy and our goal motivation. So those are just, I was going to share another example this is kind of personal, but I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's helpful to kind of lock in the learning and just how I understand how I understand firsthand how difficult it can be to create some space for yourself from those environments and those people that don't feel good to you. And that's for a very good reason, because it's ultimately going to affect your self esteem and your motivation. But so certain members of my family, I don't feel like I get support from. And when I was younger, there wasn't a lot I could do about it. I had to stay in that environment. But of course, I got older, I got more freedom, and now I have more choices. But examples of what can happen when your external environment, people in your external environment, don't believe in you. So, for example, some members of my family would expect that I'm going to mess things up, like not show up on time, not be able to make a nice dinner for the family, things like this. And so I have my stuff together. I'm like I shared. I believe in myself. I can get someplace on time. I can make a nice dinner. I can anyhow. But this feeling I start to absorb it and ultimately mess things up. And then when that happens enough times, well, you lose your motivation. Do I want to offer to make a nice dinner for the family? They don't really believe that I'm capable of this. It seems like it's going to be a problem. Maybe I shouldn't even try. Which was ultimately a good solution in that scenario. But silly things would happen, like I would miss my flight. I one time got off at the wrong train stop, and this story I think is kind of funny. So it was an important family function, and of course I'm feeling the pressure, which is creating anxiety in me, because I know that my external environment doesn't believe that I'm going to. They think I'm going to mess things up. And I got off at the wrong train stop. And so this inconvenienced my family because they had to drive further to pick me up. And I just it was a mistake. It was an accident. Anyway, whatever. And then I get to the event, and some of my cousins teased me. They're like, we hear you got off at the wrong train stop. And it was funny. I laughed, but there it is again. We expect that she's going to mess things up, and then, she does. And then if this happens enough times where I'm in an environment where I'm not being believed in and supported, I'm going to be less motivated to put myself back in that environment to try to achieve, certain tasks. So anyhow, that's another kind of funny, now it's funny example, but this is what happens even for somebody like myself, who was born driven and motivated and loves inspiring and encouraging others, because the way that we see ourselves is how we see others. And because I believe in myself and my abilities, I have the same belief for others. So that's why I do what I do. But I can still be affected by these theories that play out in real life, and these different examples that I'm sharing. Okay, so those are some examples, and we talked about the theories. Now, what are some takeaways? What can you do to start to rebuild your self-efficacy, your belief in your ability to achieve, so that you feel motivated if you're in a circumstance where a situation where that motivation has been beaten down a little bit, that belief in your ability to achieve has been lowered? It starts with awareness. And how do you become more self-aware? Pay attention to your emotions. Emotions are useful information. Even the very uncomfortable emotions that keep sticking around, keep showing up for a very good reason, because we keep ignoring them and pushing them down. Now, we're already feeling uncomfortable, but what you do when you sit with the uncomfortable emotion and you take it further by acknowledging that it's there, is that then the problem can start to get smaller, because then you can actually identify it, which is going to lead you to your solution, which will show up in the form of an idea. But you're not going to see your first step in your new career path, or how to start your new business, or how to work toward this goal, if you don't pay attention to what is bothering you, what is frustrating you. So yes, we want to pay attention to and lead with our positive emotions, again, guiding us in the direction that is right for us. But don't discount the value of our negative emotions. It is just informing you, you know what? This environment doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel right. You keep putting yourself back there. Again, you may not be able to up and move right away, but you can acknowledge the emotion, get curious about why it's there, and then start to get curious about what ideal would look like for you. What is missing that you want in the next opportunity, or in an area in your personal life? And then you can even get excited about it. And this is how we draw opportunities toward us while we work on building ourselves as we move toward them. So it starts with something just as simple as awareness, and you want to check in with how you're feeling and why day to day. I do this every day at the start of my day as part of my meditation, and then throughout the day as well. If I ever have a negative emotion, I pay attention to it and I get curious about it. Sometimes it takes some digging. I may not have it right that moment, but I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to come back to it. And ultimately, I will figure out why it's there. And this helps me understand myself so well. And the more you increase your self-awareness, you're naturally going to increase your social awareness. I forget who this, I think it's Matt Kahn said this quote. I don't remember, but we can only know others as deeply as we know ourselves. And I have committed decades now to introspection and self-reflection practices, a part of my coaching program that I have clients do and part of my workshops as well. But it helps me to better understand others, sometimes even better than they understand themselves, as far as what's bothering them and why, what their motivations are, and why. Now, this can make people uncomfortable. It's not something I try to do. It's just a natural ability that I have that has increased over the years because of the self-reflection exercises that I do. And that's another, so in addition to paying attention to your emotions, checking in, also, during the interview process, pay attention to how you're feeling, because how you feel throughout the interview process, how you feel you're being treated, or do you feel motivated? Do you have energy around these people throughout the process or not? This is indicative, important information of how you're going to feel if you take that job. So don't ignore your emotions. Powerful stuff that's going to help you go in the right direction for you. It's going to make you feel more empowered. It's going to increase your belief in your ability to achieve, and then, of course, your motivation. But self-reflection, you can reflect on your past achievements, for example. So think about something, a goal where you reached it, you achieved your desired outcome. Well, think back, reflect back on how you felt when you got your initial idea, and what your process was, what your steps were, and then how you felt throughout the process, and then what your result was, and then how you felt. So this exercise is also something that I highly recommend when you're preparing for interviews. And of course, you want to be thinking about some star examples, preparing examples of successes and stories behind them, because hiring managers want to hear not just what you've done, but how you've done. So you want to do this anyhow, but it's going to rebuild or continue building. Is going to elevate your belief in your ability to achieve, because, hey, I already did this so many different times, and you can just keep brainstorming, keep reflecting. But we can also learn a lot from our undesired outcomes. So again, just like those negative emotions, we don't want to ignore them. We don't want to squash them down. Same is true with our undesired outcomes. I don't call them failures, because I don't believe that when you acknowledge what you want and you try and you don't get the desired outcome that you want, well, you learned, and you likely needed to go through that process to equip yourself with the tools that you need so that you're ready when the right opportunity shows up. So it's just a process if you don't get the desired outcome. What is a failure, in my opinion, is not trying, not acknowledging what you want, and or not trying. So self-reflection, this is something else that you can do. Now, what can you do in those situations where you don't have full control over your environment? Now, this happens sometimes. Now, I have a lot of control over my environment. I'm very I used to be a little too controlling with this because of the challenges that I had when I was younger. I was so uncomfortable in my home environment that when I got older and more independent and I could make my own decisions, I would just be ultra careful. But then having too much control can certainly hold you back as well. So these days I've much improved there. One thing that I do is a mantra, and it's about focusing on grounding my energy and reminding myself that I choose where my energy flows. I choose my focus. And so we'll circle back to this as a big, powerful thing that you can do, is you can choose your focus. So let's say you're in an environment at a place where you're surrounded by others and their energy is maybe not so great, or maybe you feel like they don't believe in you. Maybe you feel this way at your job, but you can't quit right now. But what can you do? You can choose your focus. So maybe you still have some interactions there, but you don't give your full energy. And then when you're out of that environment, or even when you're in your environment, you can shift your focus and think about something else. Just hyper focus on a project, a task, maybe find somebody within your environment that you do feel you connect well with, for example. So we don't have control over everything, but you do have control over where you focus. And so that's big. And then Let's see what else. What can we do moving forward to be more discerning of our environment and who we choose to surround ourselves with to help you build, not only to continue building your self efficacy within yourself, but also to create an environment for yourself that fosters that? Well, just repeat the steps that I shared before: awareness, paying attention to your emotions, doing some self reflective exercises, and just being very discerning of who you give your time, effort, and energy to. All right, so we talked about why this is important, goal motivation and self-efficacy, and surrounding yourself with the people that believe in you, that you get support from. And we talked about some of the research, the theories on motivation, and then some takeaways that can help you. So I hope that that helped. And if you did get some value from the video, if it resonated, I invite you to like and subscribe. You can also check out my links below if you'd like to learn more about my coaching, workshops, and consulting. I help individuals acknowledge what it is they truly want, believe they can achieve it, and take action. And then, of course, I help leaders make lasting hires with less stress. And I bring my background, 10 years of experience in recruiting, my background in organizational psychology, and of course, the tools that I learned along the way in covering or in from my recovering from my own challenges. That's it for this one. And thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.